Well, hello again, and welcome to a rather sweaty shed in Sussex this week. We're enjoying is a vague word, some very hot weather, hence the rather informal attire today. I hope you'll forgive me. I was going to talk about something else this week, but really we can't get past the disaster in Beirut last week. I have to say, when I first saw stories pop up about an explosion in Beirut, I took it to be further terrorist or war activity. Beirut has suffered terribly over the past few decades with both civil and external wars, but it became apparent fairly quickly, certainly once we got to see the pictures of it, that this was not just a regular bomb. In fact, the story, as far as we know, is that there was around 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate, which had been taken from an impounded ship 7 years ago, and that was being stored in a warehouse alongside the dock. I've seen aerial photos. The BBC website actually had a very interesting shot of the before and after aerial shot, probably from Google Earth, where the warehouse and the dock now form a completely new basin in the port. Not that there's much left of the port, and the rest of the city was damaged. At least 200 people are known to have died, and probably more, several thousand injured. And apart from that, the city itself has been badly damaged. And I do feel sorry for the people of Lebanon, not least because Beirut used to be such a beautiful place. It was the Paris of the Middle East in the old days, and a city with such remarkable history as well. It's been occupied for at least 5,000 years. It was where the Phoenicians sailed from when they went off conquering the rest of the Mediterranean, or trading with it at least. So that's a shame. But the fact is that dangerous goods have yet again been implicated in another major accident, and the general press is trying to get their head around what on earth ammonium nitrate is and how to spell it. Is it ammonium or ammonia, and so on. But what we are realising, I think, very quickly is that this was an accident waiting to happen. And we hear that time and time again, that phrase, it was an accident waiting to happen. If you look at the CSB's incident reports in the States, quite often that is what they're saying. And we know that because there's a history. We've been there before. Most recently, 5 years ago in China, when in a very similar accident, a warehouse in Tianjin with, I think it was 800 tons of ammonium nitrate exploded. Massive devastation of the port area. Again, that ammonium nitrate shouldn't have been there. What we think we know from that is a store of nitrocellulose in the same warehouse caught fire and spread the fire to the ammonium nitrate. Several people were arrested, heads rolled, possibly figuratively, possibly not. And the Beijing government came down very hard and said to a lot of chemical facilities, you've got to move. That's what you can do with a command economy. That sort of thing wouldn't happen in the US or in Europe, of course. And we don't know what's going to happen in Beirut. Clearly, there had been warnings to the authorities from people who knew and were concerned about it. But those concerns weren't acted on. It also reminded me of the terrible accident in 2013 at the West Fertilizer plant in Texas, where a store, I think it was about 30 tons, was it, of ammonium nitrate in a fertilizer plant, along with ammonia, anhydrous ammonia. And a fire broke out. The ammonium nitrate was stored in wooden vats, I think. And the place exploded. And the other thing, of course, in all these three incidents is that a fire broke out before the explosion. So the first thing that happens is the fire brigade get called. At the West Fertilizer explosion, those were volunteer firefighters from the local community. And it's often those people who get killed. We shouldn't be putting firefighters in that sort of hazard. There are plenty of other examples of ammonium nitrate not doing what it should do, which is really to act as a fertilizer or mining explosive. The AZF plant in Toulouse in France had a significant accident in 2001, I think, where about 60 tons of ammonium nitrate exploded. People were killed. There have been transport accidents too. There was a mysterious one in North Korea in 2004. And of course, there's the big one in Texas City way back. So there are risks, and of course, terrorists and other people bent on doing ill know that very well. And the Provisional IRA used ammonium nitrate usually in a mixture with diesel and straw, I think, as a base for van bombs in their campaign on the British mainland back in the 70s and 80s. There was one near where I was working, in fact, in Docklands in London, where it went off at the weekend, and it was set to damage the light railway rather than do any harm to people. Although I think one guy working at a kiosk under the station was killed in that. And also the Oklahoma City bomb. Timothy McVeigh and his associates used ammonium nitrate in drums as the main explosive element in their attack there. So the hazards of ammonium nitrate are not unknown. And it strikes me that if these were incidents in the transport chain, the regulators would have been all over this. We would have had regulations, strict regulations imposed. Indeed, ammonium nitrate is regulated under the UN model regulations and all the other regulations that follow on from that for transport. But when it comes to storage in warehouse facilities and manufacturing plants, at end user facilities, there aren't standardized regulations. In Europe, for instance, we do have the Seveso directive. In the States, OSHA and EPA regulate storage of certain high hazard, dangerous goods, hazardous materials. But none of those, and nor the globally harmonized system, the GHS, which is becoming more global and more harmonized as we move on. So that's good news. But while that describes the hazard characteristics of products and the dangers, both in the short and long term, to health and the environment, none of those have instructions on how to store and handle material safely. And quite often, those sort of laws or regulations or standards are left either to industry itself, which often industry does very well, or to more local authorities, sometimes even down to the level of port authorities themselves or fire brigades. And it's the case with a lot of warehousing and a lot of even bulk liquid storage, that's where the rules come from. Now, I'm not suggesting, I don't think, that we should have a parallel model regulations for that part of the supply chain. Although, you know, maybe it's not such a bad idea. But we do know about the hazards of ammonium nitrate, and those who are blowing the whistle, like those who tried to do in Beirut, and those who are doing so even today in places like Chennai in India, Aden in Yemen, and other places where there are susceptible stocks of ammonium nitrate, suddenly have a lot of information available. There's a very good visual here on a website called visualcapitalist.com. about 20 years of ammonium nitrate explosions. The information is out there. So if you know anybody who's trying to rattle a cage or two, point them to that. The Madras Chamber of Commerce and Industry, I think it is. In fact, he's having a webinar next Monday on the topic as they try and get some action on stocks of ammonium nitrate near the port. I'm hoping to take part in that, and if I learn anything interesting, you'll be the first to know. Meanwhile, thanks for watching. Take care, stay cool, and I hope to see you next week. Bye for now.